first of its kind, first registered with AIMS, first international marathon recognized. It's a big honor for the city itself. I've done my 10K, I've lost all those calories, I want to go have a big breakfast. And that's how it built up, right?
Running में जो inconvenience है, वो मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा लगी.
You know, I would be done with my run in the morning, then I would just, I would give my family my time, and then I would head to the gym.
When I woke up and I thought, nah, I can't do this, I went back to sleep. And after that, when I woke up later, I felt terrible. So I started to involve them a lot in whatever I was watching that was inspiring. So somehow they started to understand. While they were young, but they also started to understand what it means to me.
हम बात करेंगे आज मैराथन रनिंग के बारे में. कराची में एक बहुत बड़ा मैराथन हो रहा है जनवरी 5 को, और इसके लिए बहुत ट्रेनिंग की ज़रूरत होती है. तो हमने एक 4 पार्ट एपिसोड क्रिएट किया है, जिसमें आज हम पहला पार्ट रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं और आपके साथ शेयर कर रहे हैं. और हम बात करेंगे इंस्पिरेशन और मोटिवेशन. क्यों इंसान 42 किलोमीटर भागे, क्या ज़रूरत है आपको 42 किलोमीटर भागने की. कहते हैं ना, किस कुत्ते ने आपको काट लिया कि आप 42 किलोमीटर भागेंगे. हमारे पास 3 गेस्ट बैठे हुए हैं जिन्होंने यही मैराथन पहले भी भागे में, तो हम इनसे ये बात करेंगे कि इनको ये इंस्पिरेशन और मोटिवेशन कैसे मिली. लेट्स टॉक टू आवर गेस्ट्स टुडे. लेट्स स्टार्ट विद दानिश इलाही. दानिश, व्हाई डोंट यू गिव अस अ क्विक इंट्रोडक्शन and what made you get into this?
Hi, so Fazan, good to be back here again. So I've done 5 of the 6 majors. So I think I'm well past the stage of asking myself why, because it's now become pretty much a lifestyle and a choice now. But if I think about it, back in the day, why I started in the first place was it was COVID 2020. We had a lot of time at our hands. We wanted a reason to be outdoors, and running gave me that reason to be outdoors and experience fresh air in the morning. And it just, when COVID stopped, we went back to our offices, went back to our normal life. It just stuck with it, and it just became a part of our lives. And I think it's a lifestyle choice now. I've done 5 of the 6 majors, I think, and I look back, I did New York earlier this month, and I had my parents there, so hugging my dad on the 41st kilometers, just before the finish line. I think and that moment, and that joy and that pride that we shared as a family together, I think summed it up for me. And it's just all that hard work just culminated into that, that 10-15 seconds that I spent with him on the course, just stopping, hugging him, kissing him, and then just going to the finish line. I think it is that inspiration, it is that motivation that will stay with me for the rest of my life. And I transfer that to my kids and transfer that to the community. And it's this community that brings us all together and allows us to rejoice those successes. There's, picks us up on those failures, and friends that have just become family over these years. Help us achieve that. And for me, it's now a lifestyle choice.
It's now a lifestyle. And Dania, when did you get into this?
So I started running in 2022. So I mainly started just to lose weight, but then I just got addicted. It was just, I just couldn't stop at like 5 kilometers. Then I did 10 kilometers. And then I decided that maybe, I should try road running. I would run on the treadmill. And when I started doing that, there was just no stopping for me. And
इससे पहले कभी running की
so
थी?
I always wanted to run, but my kids were too young for me to leave them behind and, to commit to running. So I guess I started at the right time then in 2022, because I felt like now is the time. My kids are old now, they're independent, and I can dedicate my time to the sport. And then my daughter, she told me, she said, why don't you go into running, and why don't you run and bring home medals for me? So that's how I started running.
Interesting. And you had never run before?
No, never. I was a couch potato. I wouldn't even participate in sports day.
So yani ke going from zero to running your first full marathon.
Yes.
In how long?
So for full, I think I gave it 1 whole year.
1 साल लगा
हाँ,
training
1 साल.
Amazing. अभी मैं वापस आता हूँ. तो your trigger, as I understand, दानिश का तो trigger मुझे जो सुनने में अंदाज़ा हुआ है, दानिश का ट्रिगर जो था वो कोविड में बाहर निकलना और थोड़ा सा हेड स्पेस लेना था, ठीक है. योर ट्रिगर वाज वज़न कम करना.
वजन कम करना.
वज़न कम करने के तो और भी तरीके हैं, मैं उस पर भी आऊँगा अभी एक सेकंड में. फिर हिना, you also started running. Tell us about give us an introduction, tell us what got you into it.
So I started in 2022, and before that, just like you said, Faizan, I would also, as a non-runner, think exactly in the same way. Ke, why do people do this? किसी पागल कुत्ते ने काटा, ये भागे जा रहे हैं on the road. What fun are they gaining out of it? इनकी सांस नहीं फूलती. Those were the questions I would also have in my mind. What was the trigger for me? So it was really just a very, very busy day. At the end of that day, I just sat down back in 2022 and I realized that, I have all these compartments in my life. There's work, there's home and kids. And I keep doubting, am I doing well enough in all of these three? And with those thoughts, I just got out of the house for a simple walk, away from my husband, away from everyone, He asked me, do you want me to come? I said, no, just solo. I want to just go. And that time, I just realized that when I have had that time just to myself, to clear my thoughts, I'm a better person. At the end of the day, when the people who are really important to me, they end up getting the worst of me because I'm so tired. And that day I realized I want to do something like that. This was fun. Maybe I could do something like this. So I registered from a couch potato to 10K. It was an online plan, 3-month plan. Thinking that I'm going to do this, but probably in 3 months I can't get to 10K. So in my mind,
Karachi mein 10K.
Yes. And I realized I can't get there really. In 3 months, I can't do it. But let me try it. And at that point also, so every time you did that run that was on that plan, that square became green. And that coach online, it was an online plan, he would just say, turn the squares green. Just turn up for every run that's on the plan and you'll get there. And slowly I started to realize that when I thought I couldn't even do 1 kilometer, because before then I had not gone to the gym, I was not a sporty person, never. But the kind of therapeutic feeling that I would get at the end of the day, or sometimes then I would do early morning, and that's something I enjoyed even more. I realized that yes, those green boxes on my app give me a sense of accomplishment, that it's making me do this and I can do this. And at the end of those 3 months, when I actually did that 10 on that day, and throughout this journey was alone. So like Danish said, I had not really started running with people. It was really my music and me. And that day, when I finished a 10, that feeling of accomplishment, that my brain thought I can do this, that was amazing. That day I knew that I'm hooked on to this and I'm going to continue doing it. And one day, maybe I can do a 21 also. My brain started to think maybe I can do that. So that was really what got me into it and what got me motivated to try.
So what's interesting is none of you wanted, किसी का भी trigger जो था was not running itself. किसी का भी trigger running ये नहीं था कि मुझे भागना है. Your trigger was मुझे कोविड में बाहर निकलना है, थोड़ी स्पेस चाहिए. और कोविड में बड़े मुश्किल हालात थे यार, हम सब घर में बंद पड़े हुए थे, ऑफिस नहीं जा सकते थे. And I get that. You needed to get out of the house, is what it sounds like.
Faizan, I'll go one step further for this, right? So आपने हमारी सारी conversations में जब सुना होगा, none of the triggers was actually the event of a full marathon that got us out of the house. So if we had started thinking that day one कि हमारा eventual goal is a 42.2 kilometers,
कोई नहीं करता.
कोई भी नहीं करता. And because it sounds daunting, like like how you've referred to it, कि यार 42.2 kilometers you're running, right? So हमसे अगर in our daily lives, the questions that we are asked as with people that we interact with on business, family, first second सवाल ये होता है कि ये होती कितनी लंबी है 42 किलोमीटर.
पहला सवाल होता है कि
फर्स्ट है
क्या जीता.
सेकंड सवाल होता है कि 42.2 किलोमीटर एक साथ भागते हैं कि मतलब you divide it
3 दिन में हम करते हैं.
3 दिन में it's like a test match कि 5 दिन में ये पूरी हो रही है. तो हम बोलते हैं नहीं, हम एक साथ भागते हैं. अच्छा कितनी दफा रुके, या like how many times, how many rest did you take?
मैं पहले लंच के लिए रुका, फिर चाय के लिए
तो आपका जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ना, वो कॉन्सेप्ट ही यहाँ पे एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता. एंड दैट्स द रियल माइंड ओवर बॉडी काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग दैट यू गेट कि यार वंस यू आर अप देयर, जिस तरह हिना ने कहा कि दैट पहला 10K, मुझे याद है सिमिलर टू हिना, फर्स्ट 10K दैट आई रैन, I came home and I woke up my parents and I said, I've done a 10K, we're going to go and have a big breakfast. That was the first thought process. I've done my 10K, I've lost all those calories, I'm going to go have a big breakfast. And that's how it built up, right? And there were different people like Adnan Gandhi, who runs the SVRC, who's brought us all together. He had done a few marathons, before. He'd done one in New York a few years ago. Chicago was one that he'd done years ago. So there were a few who had gone through that process, knew where we were in our journey because they'd been there 10, 15 years ago. So हम उस journey पे जब शुरू हुए ना, तो फिर हमें वो सब ने सपोर्ट किया, एक पूरे सब ने। आप ये जो सुबह सुबह का जो ये रनिंग कम्युनिटी है ना SPRC, आज मैं देखता हूँ जब हम पहले भागते थे ना, आज से 2-2.5 साल पहले, तो 4 गाड़ियाँ नज़र आती थी सुबह सैटरडे को। आज सुबह जब हम भाग रहे थे, फैजान बिलीव यू मी, मुझे पार्किंग नहीं मिली उस रोड पे, सो आई हैड टू एक्चुअली गो अराउंड एंड पार्क ऑन द अदर साइड because there were at least 50-60 cars out there.
50?
50-60 there were too many runners today.
I used to run with you guys in 2022. ये कहते थे 6-8 गाड़ियाँ
6-8 गाड़ियाँ,
that's right.
50, and I kid you not, 50 भी मैं शायद कम बता रहा हूँ।
और ये सब अभी की ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हैं।
ये सब they're just all training for the Karachi Marathon, first of its kind, first registered with AIMS, first international marathon recognized. It's a big honor for the city itself. So हमारी जो दोस्तियाँ हैं, we go, मैंने 5 मैराथन्स किए हैं, मतलब उस 5 में फैसल शफ़ी हैं, नौशरवान हैं, डॉक्टर जहां से, शोएब निज़ामी who's out there right now, हम सब ने मिलके एक साथ किए हैं, और कौकब, sorry, how can I forget her। तो ये जो दोस्तियाँ बनी हैं, वो दोस्तियाँ शायद मुझे स्कूल में याद थी कि हमारी ऐसी दोस्तियाँ होती थी।
सुबह बजे उठ के ये दोस्ती
ये बन सकती है।
तो मैं अभी उस पर दोबारा आता हूँ, राइट? तो क्योंकि ये जो 5 बजे उठ के वाली बात है ना, टू मी दैट्स अ बिग इनकन्वीनियंस, राइट? तो मुझे जो पहली चीज़ समझ आई, पहली चीज़ है इसके जो ट्रिगर है इज़ नॉट कि मैंने मैराथन भागना है, ना कि मैंने 10 किलोमीटर भागना है। ट्रिगर ये होता है कि भाई मेरा कोई और ऑब्जेक्टिव है जिसको मैं घर से निकल के रनिंग के थ्रू अचीव कर सकता हूँ, चाहे वो हेड स्पेस है, चाहे वो वज़न कम करना है, चाहे वो जस्ट बीइंग अ बेटर पर्सन एंड मोर अवेलेबल फॉर माई फैमिली, राइट? ठीक है, समझ आ गई। देर आर लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंट वेज टू डू दैट, राइट? देर आर, मतलब आप शॉपिंग चले जाएं, ठीक है, women love to do that, some men love to do that as well, men love to play golf, उनके लिए ये एक आउटलेट होता है। मुझे गाड़ियों का शौक है तो आई गो फॉर अ ड्राइव, तो मेरी एक ड्राइविंग कम्युनिटी है। तो इन सब चीज़ों में, अच्छा, ड्राइविंग में इनकन्वीनियंस जो हैं, या शॉपिंग में इनकन्वीनियंस है कि पैसे क्रेडिट कार्ड चार्ज करना, बजटिंग, वो एक अलग इनकन्वीनियंस है। चलें, दैट्स नॉट अ फिजिकल इनकन्वीनियंस, वो डील कर लेते हैं। गाड़ियों की इनकन्वीनियंस है कि आपको गाड़ी को कॉन्स्टेंटली मेंटेन करनी है, फ्यूल इश्यूज़ होते हैं, कहीं बंद हो गई, प्रॉब्लम आ गई, आप फंस गए, फिर 4 घंटे आपके ज़ाया हो गए। गोल्फ में मुझे अब तक कोई इनकन्वीनियंस नज़र नहीं आई, एक्सेप्ट कि आप सुबह 4 घंटे अपने फैमिली से दूर होते हैं या वीकेंड पे अपने फैमिली से दूर होते हैं। लेकिन इसके अंदर रनिंग में जो इनकन्वीनियंस है वो मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा लगी। हाउ डिड यू गेट ओवर द इनकन्वीनियंस, राइट? एंड टू मी द इनकन्वीनियंस इज़ 2 parts. नंबर 1 देयर इज़ द इंडिविजुअल इनकन्वीनियंस, ज़ाती तौर पे मेरी जहनी और जिस्मानी जो एफ़र्ट लगती है रनिंग में, मैं उसको किस तरह अपने आप को मोटिवेट करूँ, नंबर 1। नंबर 2 इज़ कि जब आप लॉन्ग रन्स करते हैं, यू आर अवे फ्रॉम योर हाउस एंड योर फैमिली फॉर 2-3 hours इन द मॉर्निंग। फिर जब आप वापस आते हैं, आपने इतनी एनर्जी एक्सपेंड की हुई होती है कि आप उनके लिए यूजलेस हैं, आप कुछ और कर नहीं सकते। तो ये मेरे लिए तो बहुत बड़ी इनकन्वीनियंस है। इनफैक्ट पार्ट ऑफ द रीज़न आई स्टॉप द मॉर्निंग रन वाज दैट। वॉक मी थ्रू हाउ ईच ऑफ यू got over these inconveniences, the individual and sort of the family and the societal inconvenience. Hina, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I think you're absolutely right. It is easier to not wake up than to wake up early morning and really get out and do it. So yes, 2 inconveniences. For myself, what I realized was there were a few days when I woke up and I thought, nah, I can't do this. I went back to sleep. And after that, when I woke up later, I felt terrible. I felt so bad. Why did I miss this? And then there was those days when I didn't feel like it, but I still, since I'd read up somewhere, just lace up, show up. And I would tell myself, my brain, that I will lace up and show up, even if the run doesn't go as planned, even if I can't do the 2 hours today. I will lace up and show up and do something. And that time when I would do it, at the end of it, that feeling of accomplishment that I did this, my brain would tell me, you're so great. You did this today. The next morning, when I didn't feel like it, I would tell myself that feeling of accomplishment. I loved it after I did it. I'm going to do it again today. So that's how I tackle my own inconvenience. For my family, I think it's absolutely right. Since you've also been a runner, you were spot on that after a long run, and it's not just that day. The day before the long run, it starts the evening before. When you have to sleep early, you have to eat the right things. You're thinking about carb loading, whatever everyone's eating, their dinner is different today. You have a separate plate. So how I dealt with it, I started to really involve my kids in it. Earlier on, every morning when my kids would wake up during the run, and I always run with my phone on me, I would get a call from my daughter. She was really young when I started off, and then she would be crying, "Why did you leave, Mama? Why did you leave?" So what I started doing was that everything that inspired me, if I saw a really good video about epic finish line endings, or something about how some guy did this amazing thing on running, I would show it to them. I'd say, I saw this video, come let's see it. Do you want to see what a finish line looks like? So I started to involve them a lot in whatever I was watching that was inspiring. So somehow they started to understand. While they were young, but they also started to understand what it means to me. Why do I go? So how my personality was changing to really incorporate this whole running in my routine, they started to really understand, because you can't do it alone. You need your family support. You have to talk to them why you're doing it. Whatever I was watching, I would talk to my parents about it. And like Danish said, yes, I also had those questions. अच्छा marathon 42 होती है, तुम कितना करोगी? Like, मैं भी 42 ही करूँगी. 42 कितना होता है? And my favorite one was, that's home to airport, sea view to airport, and back is 42. And that's when non-runners actually understand what 42 is. So, you need their support. You have to involve them in your own dream. You have to involve them in whatever changes you're bringing to your lifestyle, why you're doing it. That's how I dealt with inconvenience.
And tell me, Dania, yours was different, right? Yours was very individual in terms of what you were hoping to accomplish, which is weight loss. Yeah. ठीक है? Weight loss करने के बहुत आसान तरीके हैं. आप बस खाना बंद कर दें. इतनी मेहनत करने की क्या ज़रूरत थी?
So, I love to eat. And I eat a lot of meetha. So फिर I was strength training. I still do. I still work out at the gym. But I think I just needed a little bit more. आपका वो एक saturation point आ जाता है, वो आ गया. फिर I'm like ये भी काफ़ी नहीं. I used to walk also a lot. फिर walking में भी ये होता है कि when you're walking at a slow pace, then you increase your pace. But then I felt like I need something more. So I started running. फिर सुबह का ये था on an individual level, I felt like 5 to 6 in the morning I can give myself time, because my kids wake up at 6. So I used to be home before they would even wake up. So I would wake them up, I would give them their breakfast, I would get on with my day. I would be done with my run in the morning, then I would just I would give my family my time, and then I would head to the gym. So by 9 a.m. I would be done with everything, like my workouts, my run, everything. Then it was just रिलैक्स करने का टाइम, नैप कर लिया, रिचार्ज कर लिया. तो ये था.
तो इसमें जो इनकन्वीनियंस थी, यू थिंक कि इट वाज वर्थ के मतलब मीठा फिर भी आई एम अज्यूमिंग मीठा फिर भी खाती रही होंगी, हाँ? यू फिगर्ड आउट कि यार मैं ये चीट कर सकती हूँ, ये वाली इनकन्वीनियंस मैं बढ़ा दूँ, लेकिन मीठा मैं नहीं छोड़ सकती.
मीठा मैं नहीं छोड़.
हाँ, मीठा ही छोड़ देती, आपको ये सब करने की जरूरत नहीं थी.
जब है एक चीज़, मतलब एंड आई वाज अर्निंग इट, सो व्हाई नॉट. उसका रिवॉर्ड ही अलग था.
इंटरेस्टिंग. एंड जो इसमें फैमिली का पार्ट था, how did you deal with that? So you have young kids also.
I have young kids, and my
how
kids,
old are they?
They're 15, 12 and 11.
3, okay.
Yeah, 3, and they're all into sports. So they've found their sport, and they give their sport their time. So they know, okay, if we're giving our sport our time, then I can also give my sport my time. And my husband also plays squash, so उसका भी अपना sport है. तो मतलब we had this defined कि हाँ you guys are going for your classes, then I can also go for my run. अगर सुबह में नहीं हो रही तो I would go in the evening, I would go in the afternoon, जब वो अपनी class में होते थे. तो it was like our time decided and divided.
तो इसमें before I go to Danish, एक और जो inconvenience मुझे सामने नज़र आ रही है, as women running outside in Karachi, that in itself is an optics problem. फैमिली में किस तरह आप लोगों को समझाएं कि यार हम बाहर अकेले सुबह भागने जा रहे हैं?
So my family is like next level when it comes to security और इस तरह के आप अकेले कैसे भाग रहे हो. But the running community here is amazing. मतलब there is not a single person who's going to leave you alone on the road. I used to get really scared of running on roads. I would only run at the park, but then there came a point, long run आप नहीं कर सकते हैं. It gets monotonous, you get sick and tired of running in the park, एक ही loop कर के. But then I started running on the road and I would see people who आपको wave करें, they don't even know my name, but they know that they see a familiar face. तो ये एक बहुत अच्छी बात है कराची की. मतलब जनरली आप किसी से एडवाइस भी मांगेंगे ना तो कोई आपको गलत एडवाइस नहीं देगा, आपको वो अच्छी तरह गाइड करेंगे. मतलब फॉर मी यू नो मैंने अपना मैराथन रजिस्टर कर लिया था अक्टूबर में, बट आई until like September, first week September, I had decided that I'm not going to run because I don't think I have it in me to run the full course. So I did my 30K. I met the race director Shoaib Nizami Saab, and I spoke to him. I spoke to my coach. My coach, he said, I'm going to run your first 30K. I'm going to run with you. He ran with me, and I'm like, it was a life-changing moment for me. मतलब उसके बाद जो है ना, I had no doubts. I registered for Karachi Marathon also without even doing my first full in October. तो कम्युनिटी बहुत अच्छी है हमारी, बहुत ज़्यादा सपोर्टिव है, बहुत हेल्प है. यू नो रात को आप किसी को भी बोलेंगे कि यू नो आई डोंट वांट टू रन अलोन, मुझे मेरे साथ कोई रन कर ले, कोई पेस कर ले, यू विल सी 10 people showing up next to you in the morning.
तो ये inconvenience मतलब you as women never felt any inconvenience?
Never. Honestly, I
from
think
the community.
Contrary to popular belief, honestly, when I was running, no one was looking at me. I knew that all the runners, कोई आगे है, कोई पीछे है, but there are guards around or there are different chowkidars. I realized no one is looking at me because they're used to people running on that route. So I felt very safe. I felt, no matter what I'm wearing, no one cares, no one's looking at me. I felt very safe.
And the route is basically Creek Club se leke Do Darya, Karachi, and then back.
Yes, and back.
Right? Danish, inconvenience. How did you deal with the physical, the individual, the mental, and then the family inconvenience? Abhi, your daughter said it was an inconvenience.
It was.
And it came to you as a surprise.
No, I mean, it's
And you
not
have
a surprise,
also
but
30 pairs of shoes is what I learned.
Yes.
Which means you're taking up more closet space than anyone else.
Yeah, that is true.
So that is also an inconvenience.
That is an actual fact. मतलब जो नया कभी कोई जूता निकले या कोई नई like there's a new 1080 in New York that we just bought, तो लेने से पहले it's not about the budget, it's actually how to bring it home. And I'm actually more scared of this girl sitting outside, Alicia, than my actual wife and my parents. वो शायद कम कुछ बोले ये तो but yes, it is inconvenient for the family. But I'll tell you something, Faizan, is as a business community and as a business member, my elder who was teaching me through business community, and we've shared these thoughts in our previous session, he passed away in a road accident in 2016. So I was trying to shape my career through different learnings. So one book that I read was the 5 a.m. Club that has to date helped me shape my professional career or my professional way of how things. And it had this big aspect of waking up early, starting with something spiritual. For me, that's namaz. And then following with something physical. For me, that was running. So in 2020, I'd read that book back in 2017, 18. But it all came down to it all came together when I found running. Subah utha, Fajr ki namaz padhi, or then you're off for the run. And then you're back home in time to drop the kids off to school. So it all came together as a routine. So that inconvenience to me in my physical personal self was less for what it contributed to my overall development as a human being, and especially as a professional, as a father, in all other aspects. क्योंकि दफ्तर से लेट हो जाता था, so that morning time was a special time that I had with my kids. मैं आजकल थोड़ा सा lazy हो गया उस मामले में क्योंकि पैडल ज़्यादा खेल रहा हूँ शाम को, but that was the inconvenience sort of gelled in together to what I wanted out of my life at the time, and still do actually. So
it became you involved the family, and you structured your schedule in such a way that even having this morning routine so early, you made it work for the kids and the family. लेकिन उसमें एक और प्रॉब्लम भी आती है ना, कराची में मैंने ये सवाल नहीं किया तीनों से, बट कराची के अंदर जो एक और इनकन्वीनियंस है, हम जिस शहर में रहते हैं ये एक लेट सिटी है, ये शुरू भी लेट होता है. आप अगर 8 बजे ऑफिस चले जाएंगे तो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है, मोस्ट पीपल ऑफिस में नहीं होंगे उस वक्त, राइट? शाम में लोग घर देर से पहुंचते हैं और उसी वजह से जो दावतें होती हैं, इवेंट्स होती हैं, मतलब आपको किसी को कोई शादी पे बुलाएगा और आप 9 बजे वाले टाइम पे पहुंच जाएंगे तो जो वो ब्राइड एंड ग्रूम है वही नहीं मौजूद होंगे वहाँ पे, राइट? खाने पे 9:30-10 बजे से पहले कौन होता है? तो हर चीज़ यहाँ लेट चलती है। तो इस लेट लाइफस्टाइल में जो एक सोशलाइजिंग का एस्पेक्ट है, और फिर लोग बुरा भी मान जाते हैं आप उनकी दावतों पे ना जाएं। You cannot do this at all, because if you're going to run at 5 a.m. for a long distance, आपको at least 8 घंटे की नींद चाहिए, जिसका मतलब ये है कि आपने 9-10 बजे 10:30 बजे सो जाना है।
आप सही कह रहे हो फैज़ान, बट आप इसको इस तरह देखो कि आपने एक लेट नाइट कम्युनिटी या सोशलाइजिंग छोड़ के वही चीज़ आप अर्ली मॉर्निंग करें।
So आपने कम्युनिटीज को स्विच
आप
कर लिया है।
कम्युनिटीज को आपने स्विच किया टू समथिंग, स्विच भी नहीं किया, यू एडेड ए कम्युनिटी। देखिए वो आपकी एक फैमिली लाइफ है, आपकी प्रोफेशनल लाइफ है, उसकी एक कुछ ऑब्लिगेशंस हैं जो आपने
पूरी
करनी है, वो अब हम वी वर्क अराउंड दैट। बट एट द सेम टाइम आप ये देखो कि आपने एक कम्युनिटी जो आपकी इस बिलीफ और एक इस हेल्दी हैबिट्स पे फुली वेस्टेड है, उनको ऐड किया अपनी लाइफ में। नाउ यू आर नॉट ऑन दिस जर्नी ऑफ इनकन्वीनियंस एज यू रिफर टू इट alone, because everyone, mother of 3, mother of 2, father of 2, we're all in it together. So now your inconvenience it has a separate ecosystem that you're part of now.
So the inconvenience is a community of convenience.
Absolutely. So that is the fun part of it. I mean, it's not the fun part of it, but that's the bonding part of it, and that's where you take a lot of strength out of. So that's how we, at least, I don't know about Hina and Dania. This is how I see it. And also, it was important to hear, and we've discussed this during many of our runs, and it's important to drive inspiration, especially from our female runners, because let's admit it, right? So, we do live in a patriarchal society. And it is a lot easier for you and I to do certain things and get away with it.
Absolutely.
Than probably our female runners.
Right.
But the fact that we make it work as a community together,
Right.
while being as involved with our family, not just our kids, but our husbands, our wives, and our elders like my parents, and that's what the joy is, right? मैंने जिस तरह आपको पहले कहा फैजान के that 10 seconds in that New York Marathon on the 41st kilometer that I hugged my dad was all about this entire journey की जो first prize है ना,
वही था।
वो 10 सेकंड थे। हम जब किसी मैराथन पे जाते हैं तो हिना वाज इन शिकागो, मेरे ख्याल से 15-20 लोग शिकागो में थे इस साल। किसी ने 3 घंटे में की, किसी ने 6 घंटे में की। 3 घंटे वाला उतना ही खुश था जितना 6 घंटे वाला खुश था।
नहीं, ये बात सही है। और इसमें इसकी जो मोटिवेशन है ना,
वो आप अपने आप के पास, यू आर ओनली इंस्पायरिंग योरसेल्फ।
लेकिन इसमें मैं, एंड दिस ब्रिंग्स मी टू द थर्ड पॉइंट, राइट? जब हमने 2 पॉइंट्स पहले डिस्कस किए थे, हमने डिस्कस किए थे कि ट्रिगर इवेंट क्या है। सबका ट्रिगर इवेंट वाज नॉट रनिंग। फिर हमने डिस्कस किया कि यार इनकन्वीनियंस को कैसे दूर करते हैं। यू गाइस वेरी वेल एक्सप्लेन्ड कि इनकन्वीनियंसेस नहीं होती या यू ओवरकम देम। द थर्ड थिंग इज, अब चलें, आप ट्रिगर भी हो गया, इनकन्वीनियंस भी दूर हो गई, हाउ डू यू स्टे मोटिवेटेड टू कंटिन्यू रनिंग अप अंटिल द डे ऑफ द मैराथन? ये जो पॉइंट यू रेज के यार, आई हग्ड माई फादर एट द 42nd राइट व्हेन इट एंडेड, वो तो एंड में आया ना यार। दैट वाज नॉट द मोटिवेशन, यू डिड नॉट नो दैट फीलिंग। ठीक है, जब मैं पहली दफ़ा, मैंने 2 हाफ्स किए हैं। मैंने जब 21 पहले भागा था, I did not know the feeling of crossing over, right? So I did not know what the motivation was. No one knows the motivation until you actually cross the finish line. So then what is the motivation to just lace up and show up like you said? Tanya.
You get runner's high after long distance running.
ये क्या है runners high? ये समझाएं। सब लोग बात करते हैं runner, जब कोई सवाल का जवाब समझ नहीं आता ना, कहते हैं यार वो runners high जो है ना यार।
नहीं पता, you get it. So I've run a lot of long distances. 18 कर लिया, 24 कर लिया, सब कुछ कर लिया. So when I did my 30K, that was the first one I did before I ran my full course. मैंने 30 के किया ना, after I knew I could do it till 24. So 24 के बाद जो था ना, I kept telling my coach, I said, you know, I'm dying, I'm going to throw up. He's like, no, you have to keep, now you have to run fast. And I'm like, I can't push myself. I can't, I'm thinking of walking and you're asking me to run fast. He's like, nahi karo. So I kept going, and you know, उस वक्त there came a point where you really start questioning yourself कि you know, life में ये चीज़ें important, क्या important है आपके लिए. एंड यू नो, वो जो सेल्फ टॉक वाला जो टाइम आपको मिलता है ना, वो अलोन टाइम, और आप अपने आप को क्वेश्चन कर रहे होते हो, आप बात कर रहे होते हो अपने आप से. आई डोंट थिंक आई कैन इवन पुट इट इनटू वर्ड्स. आई वुडंट इवन बी जस्टिफाइंग इट. इस तरह मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन कर रही हूँ. बट दैट वाज एन अमेजिंग फीलिंग. मतलब वो नहीं होता कि वो जो 6 किलोमीटर में आई केप्ट पुशिंग माई सेल्फ एंड आई केप्ट टेलिंग माई सेल्फ कि आई कैन गो फॉरवर्ड. यू नो, आई ऑल्सो रेड समवेयर कि when you give up, when you decide to give up, that's when you've only used 50% of your resources. आपकी बॉडी के जो resources हैं, हम सिर्फ 50% यूज़ किए, तो आप ये समझ लो कि आपके पास अभी 50% रिजर्व में है. You can do it. It's just that your brain doesn't want to accept कि वो कर सकते. You have to keep telling yourself that I can do it. And I also heard a female runner say, what was the most difficult thing you've ever done? You know, like we go through labor and everything. Like, ये कर लिया तो ये क्या चीज़ है?
हाँ, ये बात है. Exactly. That's actually a very valid point for women also.
Yeah.
And I think कि इसके अंदर जो point है motivation की, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो someone starting from scratch, उनके लिए जो motivation जो first month में है ना, for the shorter distances, क्योंकि जब आप stamina build कर रहे हैं, राइट, उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा तकलीफ होती है, क्योंकि लाइफस्टाइल चेंज हो रहा होता है आपका. आपको अंदाज़ा होता है कि आपका स्टैमिना इतना नहीं है कि आप 3 किलोमीटर भाग लें या 5 किलोमीटर भाग लें. मोस्ट ऑफ द गिविंग अप हैपन्स देन. तो उस दौरान व्हाट वाज योर मोटिवेशन हिना टू कीप यू गोइंग? आई अंडरस्टैंड कि दानिया फेल्ट अ लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस हाई एंड सो दैट केप्ट हर, बट इन द फर्स्ट अर्ली डेज, बिकॉज़ यू स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम स्क्रैच, यू वर अ काउच पोटैटो. तो वो जो पहले 5 किलोमीटर करने में जो मोटिवेशन चाहिए, व्हाट वाज दैट फॉर यू?
You know, I was enjoying it, number one. And number two, वही वाली बात that I wanted to turn those boxes green. So, and it was a very gradual plan. So 30 minutes, next day 32 minutes, 35 minutes. So it was a very gradual change. And then again, I think I'll just second Dania, the day I did 10. Even that 10 was, that feeling was amazing, that I can do this, that feeling of accomplishment, that I can do it. I've achieved something really big. And then after that, when I did 21, like Danish, I think you celebrated 10, I had a celebratory weekend. The whole weekend was that I've done half marathon. Who did I not tell? I think I would really tell everyone that half marathon is like a huge deal. And somewhere deep down, I think that day, I knew I'm going to try for a marathon. And then I would tell others. I remember Danish asked me, oh, do you want to try for a marathon? And I said, very embarrassingly, I told him, no, but I'm very slow. And he said, forget pace. No one cares about pace, you know. And after that, like, yes, you need motivation. I think that finish line, I would see many videos and pictures of what that finish line would look like. And the days when it would be very hard, when I was doing interval training, which is to go really fast, I would just think about that finish line, that how would I feel when I cross that finish line? You know, I'll become a marathon runner. That would be amazing. So, and even now, and for me, when I signed up for a marathon, it was really just going to be an item off my bucket list check mark. My coach actually asked me the first day I signed up, and I told her I want to do this. She said, what's your goal? And I said, I want to be a finisher. So if a finisher is 6 hours, 30 minutes, I just want to finish. Get me through that, please. But when I saw that finish line, and I had heard from a lot of people that when you see the finish line, put in your best, you know, run like there are dogs running after you. You know what I did? I stopped, I took out my phone, and I made a video because I wanted to soak it all in. I knew that I want to see this video again, of what this finish line looks like. And I knew I want to do this again. So when I crossed it, I felt I have to do this again. What's next? Which is the next one I want to do? Because this finish line is amazing. And I did a video call with my kids. I called them, and he asked me the same thing. Can you email me a video? Can you show me what this finish line looked like? Because I'd spoken about that a lot to my kids also. So this finish line concept was for me the motivation.
Amazing. And what was it for you, Danish? How did you keep yourself motivated? You've done this the longest in this room. 4 years you've been at it. What keeps you going after 4 years? And even with Karachi now having been inundated with, like you said, paddle. Paddle is the hottest new sport.
It is.
सबने कहा running छोड़ो, सब कुछ छोड़ दो, काम भी छोड़ दो, बस paddle और paddle courts बनाओ.
After running, it's the best thing that's ever happened to us. So I play paddle as a family 4 times a week. Me, my daughter just had a tournament. We reached the semi-finals. We were partners. So, you know, it's a family sport. So me and my wife are playing a tournament tomorrow night. So it is a family sport. So I love paddle as much as I love running. Running a little bit more still remains first love. So motivation is badi. So mine built over time. So first motivation was when I did my first marathon. हमने 5th February को as a club on the 5th February 2021 or was it 22? 5th February 2022 को हमने पहली मैराथन भागनी थी as a club because international travels बंद थे, like COVID, travel restrictions, etc. And on 1st of February I got COVID. So 5 days before my actual marathon, my first marathon that I was going to do, I got COVID. So I saw everyone celebrate that journey through WhatsApp and through pictures, and I shared it. And I was, मुझे psychologically, as much as I was happy for the community, I needed to experience that for myself. So my first motivation for my first marathon was कि यार, and I remember my COVID finished, and on the 28th of Feb, SOP होती है, रौनक आंटी की Special Olympics, which is flagship event of the year till this Karachi Marathon. We all as a community always look forward to that. So I remember I said, Faisal Shafi, who's Dania's coach and my coach as well, and I said कि यार हम ना सुबह जल्दी start करें. We'll do a half before the SOP half. Wow. So I did my first half on September, 28th of February 2022, and that was, that was my first motivation कि मैं सबके साथ नहीं कर सका, पर मुझे अब करनी है. So I needed that, that box ticked. And once I finished that, there's no going back. There's nothing looking back. And just, you felt that you had done it. वही वाली बात है कि you've lifted that weight, you've crossed that mind over body, you've crossed that कि यार ये तो हो सकता है. अब इसके बाद क्या है? And once that finished, then we got exposed to international marathons. मैंने बर्लिन की 2022 में, तो हम 5-6 लोग थे. अगले साल 2023 में जब बर्लिन की मैराथन हुई, पाकिस्तान से कुछ 40 लोग गए थे. 40 people as a community participated in the Berlin Marathon 2023.
Wow.
And that's how, and year on year, year after year, it's increased as a community. So your motivation is getting from that one marathon to the other. And then once that marathon finishes, going back onto the roads and just meeting everyone. And then you build onto that next one together. और फिर जो अगली मैराथन पे जा रहे होते हैं, कुछ दोस्त साथ जा रहे होते हैं, तो you want to do that, you want to experience that, literally that pain together. And that pain जो आप साथ feel करते हैं, that only culminates to, after you cross that finish line. So वो motivation, आपके back of the mind, as much as your body is in pain, that psychologically, that high that you experience is because you've got, that eye on the prize, that eye on that finish line, helps you wake up every day. और मैंने कहीं पढ़ा था, पता नहीं ये, back in the day में जब हम college में थे, तो psychologically किसी मरीन से किसी ने पूछा कि यार आप, you're a line of fire में आप कैसे, you get up every day, you put yourself out there in the line of fire. How do you do this? Like why? What? You're not fighting your war. You're fighting somebody else's war, right? What gets you there? Their most common answer for everyone was कि यार मेरा जो दूसरा मरीन है ना, मैं उसके लिए कर रहा हूँ. जो वो लाइन ऑफ फायर में जा रहा है, तो मुझे वो मेरा भाई है, मैंने उसको I cannot let him down. So अगर आप उसको, हमारी जर्नी को अगर आप थोड़ा सा कभी कभार एनालाइज करें, तो वो जो पर्टिकुलर ट्रेनिंग ब्लॉक होता है, उसमें अगर मैं और हिना साथ ट्रेन करें या मैं और दानिया साथ ट्रेन करें, तो मुझे ये अगर सुबह पहुंचेंगी और मैं नहीं पहुंचूंगा, so I can't let her down. So we as a community then build that journey together to that finish line. And now every one of us is building that journey towards the Karachi Marathon. We're not just building it for the Karachi Marathon just as another marathon. It is the first marathon of its kind for us as Karachiites. It's the first marathon of its kind in Pakistan. So this is very special for us. And that's what has brought us here today. Thank you for having us. But this is what brought
great.
us here.
I'm hoping to run it. I actually signed up in July, sorry.
Oh.
I did sign up for it. I'm hoping to run at least a half. I couldn't train for the full. But for me, like, I think this is the most important part of the episodes that we're recording, because most people have a hard time starting because they look at the number 42 or they look at the number 21. Kaise hoga yaar? I link it back to the same thing here. It's like building a business from scratch. ठीक है? Or it's like raising a child. आप 21 साल का बच्चा तो नहीं पैदा कर रहे ना. You are going through a day at a time. इसी तरह आप बिजनेस जब पैदा बना रहे हैं, आपको चाहे $100 million का बिजनेस बनाना हो या 10 लाख का बिजनेस बनाना हो, आप एक दिन में नहीं बनता है वो. उसमें जान जाती है.
Running is something you're not competing with anyone else.
And you're not competing.
You're just trying to be better than yourself.
Correct.
You know,
that is the
just
best part
yourself.
about it.
None of us think oh, we're going to come first या हम उसके साथ हमारा कोई competition नहीं. It's really once you've done one, the next you want to be better than yourself.
Right.
And somewhere down the journey, I think it always becomes a very emotional journey before marathon, in the marathon. So less than the physical strength element, it really just becomes that emotional thing that you're doing with your community. And Karachi Marathon, of course, being because we're Karachiites, so the emotional attachment is more. That's true.
Absolutely. And I think that looking at it from these three angles, कि भाई, what is the trigger event? The trigger event doesn't have to be कि marathon के लिए मैं भागूं. The trigger event के लिए भी, it can be any one of the reasons you mentioned. फिर वो जो inconvenience है, it actually is not an inconvenience. Because you create your lifestyle around it. You can bring your family into it. You can schedule your days such that you're spending more time with your kids. You're creating a new community that supports this new healthier lifestyle. So वो inconvenience भी is not really an inconvenience. अक्सर लोग समझते हैं कि यार inconvenience है. And finally, the motivation. I mean, I think जो motivation है of the new milestone that you are achieving as a human being. To me, that milestone could be कि यार मैं पहली दफ़ा 1 किलोमीटर भागा हूँ. That's a new milestone. अब आप कह रहे हैं कि यार मेरा next milestone जो है वो 2 kilometers है. 2 से 4 हुआ, 4 से 8 हुआ, 8 से 16 हुआ. वो milestones है ना, वो आपका brain rewire होता है, neural pathways recalibrate होते हैं, and then your body starts saying और क्या कर सकता हूँ. And I think बहुत आसान है कि हम अपनी life में फंस जाएं और comfortable हो जाएं. And I think that जो running है, it's so easy to start creating these new milestones that you start looking. For me, what happened was I started looking at different avenues of my life कि अच्छा मैं 21 भाग लिया है, अगर मैं 21 भाग सकता हूँ तो फिर मैं business में ये भी कर सकता हूँ, मैं बच्चों के साथ ये भी कर सकता हूँ, मैं मतलब you start looking at other areas जहाँ पे आप barriers break कर सकते हैं. So I think this was a fantastic discussion. Thank you guys for taking the time, talking about the inspiration and motivation behind running. You guys summarized it really, really well. I hope you guys understood something and take some value out of this. 3 चीजें हैं, याद रखें कि trigger event कुछ भी हो सकता है. Number 2, inconvenience नहीं है. It's about how you think about it, how you look at it, आपका perspective क्या है. And the last thing is motivation. छोटे छोटे milestones, पहला कदम आगे बढ़ाएं. अगर आपका कदम आपने आगे बढ़ाया और पहला कदम है, that in itself is an achievement. So identify those achievements and keep going. Karachi Marathon is happening soon and it will happen every year. You should sign up, you should run, and you should join the community. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.